Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Empower Multimedia. Today we're going to be talking about sole proprietorships. Some background about myself is not only have I started and I'm currently running my own company, but during my Masters of Entrepreneurship, I took a class about new venture formations and we delved into business structures. So let's get started. So sole proprietorship is basically the simplest form of business you can start. It's not necessarily a legal entity per se, but it is a way for you to get started in a company. And the thing about sole proprietorship is it can be either based off of your own personal name, so whether it's like Sally's Cooking or Sally's Shack, or it could be under a fictitious name or like a kind of like an alias per se. With that being said though, there is no separate entity from a sole proprietor and the individual. They are actually connected, which can be an extreme advantage and disadvantage at the same time. So I'll get into the advantages and disadvantages later on, but just keep that in mind. So you are binded to your sole proprietorship. Now, in terms of just commonalities, in the entrepreneurship space, a lot of people have sole proprietorships just because of how easy it is to get started. You typically need a name and a local license to get started for sole proprietorship, and it really doesn't cost much to get started, which is why a lot of people go that route, like I mentioned before. Now, in terms of for sole proprietorships, in terms of incomes and losses, you typically file Schedule C during tax season to file taxes. Now, with that being said, let's get into the advantages and disadvantages of sole proprietorships. So, in regards to some of the advantages, you can establish a sole proprietorship instantly, easily, and like I mentioned before, very, very minimal costs. In terms of sole proprietorship, there's very little formalities that are needed. For example, you could potentially start selling flipping objects, whether it's on eBay, Craigslist, things like that. And if you're doing it consistently, you could theoretically consider that a sole proprietorship down the road. It's very easy to create a sole proprietorship compared to other legal structures. Now, another advantage could be, which it could be a disadvantage if you want to consider this too, but you could theoretically mix your business and personal assets, which I wouldn't personally recommend, but you do you're your own person. But that is definitely an advantage if you want to have that right or opportunity. Now, in terms of the disadvantages, this is the biggest disadvantage of sole proprietorships. So listen up. For sole proprietorships, you have maximum, or I should say unlimited, personal liability for anything, for debts, losses to the business. So if someone sues you, they could potentially come for your personal assets compared to other legal structures. Now, with that being said, you also get an extreme amount of reward on the opposite end of the spectrum. But you need to keep that in mind if you do a sole proprietorship, that you have unlimited liability in terms of your company. Another issue with sole proprietorship is it is typically more difficult for them to raise capital for their company, right? And that's compared to other legal structures like LLCs, corporations, partnerships, things like that. Typically, sole proprietorships have it the hardest. And lastly, sole proprietorships, they basically go on for the lifespan of the person that owns it. So once Sally's Cooking, once Sally dies, the sole proprietorship dies. And that actually differs from different legal entities. Like an LLC can keep going on even if the creator of the LLC dies or passes away. Same thing for corporations, things like that. But for sole proprietorships, once the owner dies, the business ceases to exist. So that sums up basically a quick summary of sole proprietorships. Now, if you want to learn more information, please do your own research, but hopefully this was helpful to you. If it was, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the content. And let me know if you want to learn more about either partnerships, LLCs, S Corp / C Corps. Thank you.